What are Canadians to make of that when the risk is so great that the government has ordered the shutdown of this entity?
It doesn't stop here in Canada. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today's top story here. We've got Jagmeet Singh was questioned on the street about voting non-confidence in Justin Trudeau. We've also got vintage clips of Pierre Trudeau in his famous walk in the snow. We've got a clip of Dominic LeBlanc from 2018 where he's talking about a major scandal he was a part of. We've also got Michael Barrett on a Tik Tok scandal. Let's jump into this. Here we've got Pierre Trudeau in his famous moment here with the walk in the snow. So from 1984, this is when Justin Trudeau's dad took his final walk.
Hey, had a great snowstorm last night. The skies were right. Went for a long walk. Came back at midnight. Took a sauna. Got rid of all the accumulated baggage and just made up my mind.
Are you gonna miss it?
I talked to my boys this morning. They were happy, so it makes it great.
What made your mind up, sir?
It just sounded right. It was, I say I had a good day, and it was a great walk in the snow, and I went to judo, felt very combative, and here I am.
So hopefully we'll see this from Justin Trudeau soon. Trudeau doesn't look like his father at all. I was thinking the same thing. He doesn't look like him at all. I'm starting to believe the rumor now. I gotta say, when I was watching that, I was kind of thinking the guy looks more like Castro. We got this one posted by Mark Nixon. It shows Dominic LeBlanc here found guilty of breaching ethics laws in 2018 over a 24 million fishing license linked to his wife's cousin, is now Canada's finance minister. So going down memory lane here.
So as all of you know, politicians, members of parliament, cabinet ministers have responsibilities under legislation to follow the rules. Canada has some of the strictest rules in this regard in the world. The commissioner today reviewed a series of circumstances and concluded that I should and could have done better. I accept the commissioner's finding without reservation. Canadians expect when mistakes are made that people assume those mistakes. And importantly, commit to doing better in the future, and that's exactly what I'm doing.
What's the penalty? What's the penalty? What penalty are you going to pay?
The Commissioner's office can speak. I don't pretend to speak for the Commissioner's office in terms of a penalty. I have read his report this morning. We received the report this morning. As I said, I accept without reservation his findings. Our obligations are to follow the rules. He determined that while no...
When have you guys followed the rules? You never followed the rules.
Preferential treatment was given, and while no benefit in fact was created, I should have consulted his office before making a decision. One of my wife's 60 first cousins was involved in one of the proposals. I obviously didn't think that this was caught by the definition of relative or family in the Act. The Commissioner, however, has the responsibility to make those determinations. I accept his determination, and I will ensure that going forward, we work with the Commissioner's office to ensure this doesn't happen again. Well, as we've said many times, the idea of including a new participant in this fishery goes back to the previous Conservative government. They had a very similar process whereby they would have issued an additional license in this fishery. Our government feels strongly that Indigenous peoples should be able to participate and benefit from offshore fisheries, and this is one area where our government thought we should move ahead, and we still remain committed to ensuring that Indigenous peoples can participate in offshore fisheries.
Have you been told there will be a repercussion from the Commissioner's office, and is there a political price to pay because you're the third Liberal minister that has violated ethics rules?
So again, in terms of the repercussion, the Commissioner's office can speak to that. I read the report like all of you this morning, and I will accept the report and obviously govern my future behavior accordingly. I think what Canadians expect in a circumstance like this, when mistakes are made, that people accept those mistakes, own up to the mistakes.
That's never happens in this country. I mean, look what happened with Randy Boussinot. There's no repercussions.
Exactly what I'm doing.
But
I'm committing going forward to work with the Commissioner's office. I think it's important to note that he confirms that no financial benefit was created in this circumstance. And no preferential treatment was given. However, I think we all have an obligation. All public office holders, all members of Parliament have an obligation to follow the Act. In this case, the Commissioner has determined that I could have done better, and I accept that
Liberals
finding.
have ethics
Merci beaucoup.
problems.
Thank you.
He just runs away. Mistakes. Actually, it's called illegal criminal behavior. Yes. You'd think ethics violations would mean they wouldn't get to continue working in government. Yes, that's what you would expect. That's how all of us would get held to account if we did this in our jobs, but not for them, apparently. They're immune to it. Next up, we got this fool here, Jagmeet, saying he was questioned on the street. He's doubling down what he said about Justin Trudeau and calling a confidence vote. And someone asked him exactly, when is this coming? When, Jagmeet, will you be doing this?
Yes.
So when is the election going to happen?
So I guess the first day we have will be sometime, it depends on when we get our day, our opposition day. So it'll be sometime between we come back to the government or when we come back to Parliament.
January?
Yeah, so January. Between January and it should be in February. The earliest it could be, depending on when we get our date, it could be between January and the latest could be March. It'll be sometime between that. So our date is scheduled, but sometimes they change it on us.
So when is the election in January?
It could be so end of January when we come back. Depends on when we get our slot. So we have one opposition day motion, and we're basically going to use it for this. Thank you. Yeah, let's see.
Cheers.
Somebody can meet. Have a good one. Thank you.
Look at this buffoon. We all know who you are, Jagmeet. Of course he won't. It'd be funny to see Trudeau call an election that occurs just a few days before Trudeau's pension kicks in. Yeah, but Trudeau's going to have to do that pretty soon here before the 20th of January. So nothing Singh said here is wrong in the video. I mean, it's true. Opposition parties can't table whatever motion they like, whenever they like. That's true. They do get scheduled out and then he can put it in. So yeah, it is between the end of January and the end of March, kind of April. Pierre Poilievre's going to get one before him and it's going to be for the same thing. So will Jagmeet vote for Pierre Poilievre's or will Jagmeet insist on his motion being the one that takes down Justin Trudeau and the Liberals? And then he can say he took down the government. I think that's the play he's going for here. He's not going to support Poilievre, but who knows? The guy's such a wild card. He's such a liar. Next up, we got this one here from Michael Barrett. Says Justin Trudeau does one thing, says another. In this committee clip, he's talking with one of the top guys at CSIS and whether TikTok should be used or not. Is it safe? He says TikTok is safe to use, but shuts down the Canadian offices. So I just put a clip up about this. We've got another one here.
With respect to the decision that was taken under the Investment Canada Act, what alternatives or other options are available other than a complete shutdown of an entity here in Canada?
Some of those questions may be better directed to ISED Canada, who applies most of this act. And again, our input is limited to providing a national security assessment. That said, I do understand that there are other options available, including applying mitigation mechanisms, but I wouldn't want to speak to that on their behalf.
Okay, and is there a type of mitigation in a, for example, that you could offer?
None comes to mind right away. I apologize, that's not CSIS's area of expertise in the Act.
Okay, so if there's a national security risk so great that under the Investment Canada Act that the headquarters of this entity has been shut down or ordered shut down in Canada, but users, Canadians, are not restricted in their use of it, what are Canadians to make of that when the risk is so great that the government has ordered the shutdown of this entity? However, please feel free to continue to use the app. Well, what's the message that Canadians should take away from that?
Well, I can say from CSIS's perspective that we've been clear, as I have now, about the risks of the app itself.
Okay, so if I can you be clear? Should Canadians continue to use TikTok?
We have said, and I will say now, that there are national security concerns that we have around the use of TikTok in general, which includes the aggregate amount of data and the ability for the Chinese government to make use of that platform in ways contrary to the interests of Canada.
So, isn't that what happened in America, though? Aggregate use of data. What's weird about this is TikTok servers are hosted by, I believe, Larry Ellison in Texas. That was one of the agreements they had to make. So they put all the data in Texas. What really blew up in America with TikTok is it used to be the true source of media for a while there. You'd just see all of the breaking stuff, that when all the stuff was happening with the trains catching on fire and blowing up and all that stuff in America, all the fish dying in the rivers, all this stuff, it was blowing up on there. The deep state in America got their hands in it, got control of TikTok. Now you don't see that stuff anymore. So, and how is this any different than Mark Zuckerberg having all this data or any other platform that collects data from users?
So you're saying Canadians should or should not use it?
I'm saying that the decision of a government to provide such a recommendation or decision to Canadians is best not made by CSIS. CSIS will provide a national security assessment, but it's very important that other factors be brought into those decisions. And the decision on TikTok Canada is very distinct from the decision on TikTok in general, because there are very different factors in play.
Okay, so under the distinct question of whether or not individual Canadians, I'm not talking about a ban. I'm just talking about advice. You're the director of the leading organization in Canada's intelligence apparatus. You are at the foremost of this and at the forefront of this. And though new in role, appointed to it because of your qualifications, with extensive experience in the intelligence community in Canada. Should Canadians continue to use TikTok? I'm not asking if the government should ban it for Canadians. I'm asking if, as the head of CSIS, if you believe it's wise for individual Canadians to use it.
I think that there's a very big distinction between an individual's choice to use something and the aggregate effect on Canadian national security. And so, for me, if I can give you a personal example, when I was young, I did not expect to be the director of CSIS. At the time, I may have looked at the information available to me and made a decision to continue to use TikTok because I wouldn't have thought that even if China had my information, I would have cared. I now care because I'm the director of CSIS. My perspective is that individuals need to consider their own risks, and that is an important factor in their making a determination. At this stage, I can't speak for government, but I can say there are risks that I hope Canadians consider when they personally decide whether to use TikTok or not.
It's not just TikTok. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, look at YouTube. When the Freedom Convoy was blowing up, Justin Trudeau got in there. They got all the names of the people on, I believe, Give, Send, Go. And then they started locking down bank accounts. Then you had this dead zone of where people weren't even talking about what was going on in Canada because people were too afraid because they were afraid of Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland, locking down their bank accounts and throwing us in jail. It's only in the last 2 years we've had a bunch of creators in Canada pop up and start speaking the truth here, trying to get rid of Justin Trudeau. I had a guy deliver a package last night from Amazon. He was flashing a flashlight through my front window, and I thought it was the police coming to get me. Afterwards, my girlfriend asked me, "What's wrong? You look kind of distraught." And I said, "Oh, I thought the police were here to come get me." She was a little taken back. She didn't really realize, yeah, I mean, it's pretty real out here. We don't know what's going on. I mean, they lock down people's bank accounts. They could come round up all of us tomorrow if they wanted to. It wouldn't be good optics, but I mean, they could do it. We live in a draconian country right now.
So you talk about the aggregation of the data, the information, the pictures, the geolocation, the patterns, the habits of individual Canadians, that information being taken, potentially used by the communist dictatorship in Beijing and aggregated. But with respect to the risks to individual users, I have just about a minute left. What are the risks to individual users, those younger Canadians, the young Mr. Rogers, the future director of CSIS? What are the risks to him in 50 seconds, sir?
Right. Well, one of those risks, and if the concern is that the Chinese government may access that data, they have seen, as we know, to engage in foreign interference in acts of transnational repression and other things that are contrary to the individual and collective interests of Canada. An individual now making use of TikTok would have to be aware that their data may be subject to that regime. And if you were someone who is vocally counter to the government of China or the Chinese Communist Party, you may have particular concerns immediately. If you are someone who's not in that situation, you may eventually have those concerns, and you'll have to take into account as an individual whether you want to take that risk.
And in my last few seconds, I hear concerns from businesses who operate, who sell their products here in Canada using TikToks, locally owned businesses in my community. What do I say to them? Should they also be concerned?
I think that the same advice applies. The data and the use of TikTok will be available through the regime that we've described, and they'll have to make those decisions.
There you have it. The director of CSIS there. At your own risk, I guess. Seems pretty goofy. They should be able to go through and say, yes, it's safe, or no, it's not. I mean, they shut down their office, but they're totally fine with Canadians using it. He also blocked it from all government smartphones and not for productivity reasons. So next up, we've got this one here back at Colin Crossing. This is a development. It says here, protesters once again trying to get builders to match appraisal to pre-con price. Appraisals are coming in 400 to 500K below. Mass closing incoming. There will be in 30 days. I guess holiday tax savings ain't enough. So you can see a lot of these are just completing here soon. People won't be able to complete on them. It's just a mess here. In Canada, it's so risky to buy a place that's new, that's not built, that's going to be done in a couple of years. Essentially, when you're paying for it, you don't know what value it would actually be when it's finished because our housing market is so stupid. It goes up and down way too much. Builder is suing many of these folks. Let this be a lesson. Housing should be bought for living in, not to speculate. Protesting, arson, or whining won't save these folks. They signed a contract, can't close, get sued. That's the problem of the bank or builder. Yeah, I mean, when you're buying these places, if you agree to pay $1.9 million and then it's only worth 1.4, you agreed to pay 1.9. That is the risk. But they just want to sell these, but now they're selling them at a huge loss. As this guy said, buy it to live in. We shouldn't have people owning a whole bunch of houses. There should be a law that says you're only allowed to own one extra home or two extra homes, something like that. Not one person owning 47 homes, having corporations own 55, 65, 85, 3,000 houses and renting them out. The housing market, really, it should be for living in, not a business. The housing market should not be a business. Unfortunately, it's huge business in Canada. There you have it. Jagmeet Singh basically guaranteeing election between the end of January and the beginning of April. I think, though, he is going to wait to place it himself so he can be the one who says he took down Justin Trudeau. Vote for me, Jagmeet Singh, because I took down the government. It's not working, Jagmeet. We all know you only did this for your pension.